Venezuela confiscated our oil rights, and we want to get everything back, said U.S. President Donald Trump a few weeks ago, shortly before the lightning-fast military operation that resulted in Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro ending up in an American court. The investment market responded to these actions with a sharp surge of investors putting money into the revival of Venezuela's decaying oil industry. However, this turbulence did not start just now. It has a long history.
An 80% contraction of the economy. This is the result for Venezuela after more than 25 years under the rule of two left-wing populist leaders, Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro, who tried to build socialism. In the 21st century, the country went from being the richest and most stable state in Latin America to a nation in deep socio-economic crisis. At the root of it all is oil. Oil had been extracted there for a long time, but the scale of the wealth was not fully realized. It wasn't until the 1950s that the local state company, Petróleos de Venezuela, and American giants Chevron, ExxonMobil, and Shell began exploring the reserves of black gold. The discovered heavy oil fields turned out to be colossal, and this made Venezuela the world leader in proven reserves. The oil boom then turned Venezuela into one of the richest countries in the world. In the 1950s, its GDP per capita was similar in value to that of West Germany. Everything went downhill when Hugo Chavez came to power in 1999 and began his reforms. After his death, his successor, Nicolas Maduro, continued these reforms. In
Venezuela, Chavismo is widespread, a political movement founded by Hugo Chavez. It is supported by a wide range of competing interest groups, the military, criminal organizations, and democratic socialists. People who wanted to pursue the path of reform.
But the key element of those reforms was nationalization. Control over major assets shifted from foreign investors to the state. This led to dependence on oil prices, an economic crisis, and political instability. American companies drastically reduced their activity in the Venezuelan market. Washington imposed sanctions on Venezuelan oil. Russia and China took the place of the Americans. Rosneft entered in 2012 and began trading Venezuelan oil. And Putin supported the local regime both politically and militarily. Moscow was selling its weapons to Venezuela.
Russia has something to lose since Russian oil companies were actively involved in Venezuela's oil industry. They have their share there. And if the United States is going to exercise greater control and actively push out its adversaries and enemies, then Russia could potentially lose its access to the vital oil industry. Venezuela. We should also mention the significant fleet of oil tankers which are currently under international sanctions serving the interests of Venezuela, Iran, and Russia. A significant portion of Russia's oil exports depends on this shadow fleet. And what if the cost for the sanctioned fleet increase? Because of what the United States is currently doing in Venezuela, Russia will now have to lower its selling prices as a result.
Beijing acted in its own way. It provided multi-billion-dollar loans secured by oil and invested in the exploration and development of fields. This saved Venezuela from complete economic collapse, but now a significant portion of Venezuelan oil is exported to China as payment for previous loans, turning Venezuela into its raw material appendage. The situation has worsened, China's geopolitical influence in Latin America. And then, on January 3rd, in just 3 hours, everything changed, dramatically. The United States carried out a military special operation, removed Maduro, and now the American president is demanding that officials from his regime return the American assets that had been nationalized.
Venezuela is one of those Latin American countries that has received perhaps the largest amount of Chinese investment. And moreover, Venezuela is precisely one of those Latin American countries, one of the few that continue to maintain active contacts with the Russians. It is worth recalling that for more than a year, there was a permanent representative office of the Wagner PMC there. And starting from this summer, they began to regularly send contract soldiers from the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation there. Therefore, any operation against Venezuela is pressure both on Beijing and on Moscow. And it's quite straightforward pressure, too.
Investor interest in Venezuela has surged sharply, especially in the energy and financial sectors. Even though restoring and modernizing the infrastructure, particularly the oil sector, will require years and billions of dollars. According to the Financial Times, in some investment funds, investor interest in Venezuela significantly increased dramatically from 0 to 99% within a single day, after Maduro was overthrown.